The stars looked different from this side of the galaxy. Commander Alan Wright frowned at the view screen of the Dauntless. His ship wasn't supposed to be here. The experimental jump drive had malfunctioned during its first real test, sending them far beyond charted space. "Status report," Alan called to his crew of 12. They were the best Earth had to offer, brave men and women who had volunteered for a mission that might kill them. Life support stable. Hull integrity at 98%. "Jump drive offline," reported Linda Morris, her fingers moving quickly across her console. "Sir, I'm picking up signals. Artificial signals." The bridge fell silent. Humanity had searched for signs of alien life for centuries. They had found microbes on Mars and simple life forms on Europa, but never intelligent aliens. "Put it on screen," Alan ordered, his heart beating faster. The image that appeared made everyone gasp. A massive space station floated before them, elegant and strange. Around it moved ships of different shapes and sizes. None looked like anything built by human hands. "We're being hailed," Linda said. The face that appeared on screen wasn't human. It had pale blue skin, large eyes, and a small mouth. The alien spoke, and somehow Alan understood the words. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Federation space without authorization. Identify yourself immediately." Alan stood tall. "I am Commander Alan Wright of the Earth vessel Dauntless. Our appearance in your territory was accidental. We come in peace." The alien's eyes widened. "Earth? That planet is not in our database. What sector are you from?" Before Alan could answer, another alien appeared on screen. This one had green scales and spoke quickly to the blue alien. They seemed upset. The blue alien turned back to Alan. "A Federation representative will dock with your vessel. Do not attempt to flee." 2 hours later, Alan stood in the Dauntless's meeting room facing Ambassador Zarlath of the Ultharian species. The ambassador was tall and slender, with gray skin that seemed to shimmer. Their six-fingered hands moved nervously as they spoke. "This is most unusual," Zarlath said. "No new species has joined the Galactic Federation in over 500 years. We had no idea your world existed." "We didn't know about you either," Alan said. "Our jump drive was experimental. It wasn't supposed to bring us this far." Zarlath studied the environmental readings on a small device. "Your oxygen levels are extremely high, and the gravity on your ship." They looked at Alan with new concern. "What kind of planet are you from?" Alan described Earth, its oceans and mountains, its varied climates from frozen poles to sweltering equator, its rich biodiversity. With each detail, Zarlath grew more alarmed. "Multiple apex predators, constant bacterial threats, extreme weather patterns, and you evolved there?" "Yes," Alan said, confused by the reaction. "Is that unusual?" "Commander Wright, most civilized species come from gentle worlds. Stable climates, few predators, minimal pathogens." Zarlath stepped back slightly. "Your people are what we call Deathworlders, creatures that evolved under constant survival pressure. Your strength, endurance, and immune responses would be frightening to most Federation citizens." Before Alan could process this information, alarms blared. Zarlath received an urgent message on their communication device. Their face showed fear. "The Void Swarm has returned," they whispered. "They've destroyed 3 more systems." "What's the Void Swarm?" Alan asked. Zarlath explained quickly. The Void Swarm was a mysterious entity that had appeared 6 months ago at the edge of the galaxy. It consumed everything in its path: ships, stations, even stars. Federation weapons barely affected it. Worse, it projected a psychic field that filled most species with paralyzing terror. "We've lost 17 worlds already," Zarlath said. "Our scientists believe the galaxy has perhaps 2 years before the swarm consumes everything." Alan's crew had gathered to listen. Lieutenant Sophia Barnes, the tactical officer, spoke up. "Can we see footage of this swarm?" Zarlath showed them recordings from the latest attack. The swarm looked like a cloud of black particles that moved with unnatural coordination, forming tentacles and maws to tear apart ships. Federation vessels fled in disarray before even making contact. "Why don't they fight back?" Sophia asked. The fear effect, Zarlath explained. It overwhelms our nervous systems. We cannot think clearly in its presence. Alan looked at the footage, again. I don't think this fear effect would work the same way on humans. Our brains are structured differently. That's impossible, Zarlath said. All sentient life responds to the swarm's presence with terror. Alan looked at his crew. None of them seemed particularly frightened by the footage. Ambassador, humans evolved facing constant dangers. Fear is something we've learned to control. Sometimes it even makes us perform better. A species that functions better when afraid? That's... Zarlath couldn't find the words. Alan made a decision. Ambassador, my ship is damaged, but my crew, and I can help. Take us to your council. If this swarm threatens the galaxy, it threatens Earth too. 24 hours later, Alan stood before the Federation Council. 13 representatives from the oldest spacefaring species. The chamber was grand with a domed ceiling showing star patterns Alan didn't recognize. Most council members viewed the humans with obvious discomfort. Only one, Science Minister Vrinta, a small green being with 4 arms, showed genuine interest. Humans' biological readings are fascinating, Vrinta told the others. Their bones are denser than any council species. Their muscles generate 3 times the force of a Thrixian, and their immune system is constantly active, fighting threats we would never survive. The council head, Elder Zimral, was not impressed. Minister, these creatures evolved on a death planet. They are likely violent and unpredictable. Alan stepped forward. Respected council, it's true that Earth shaped us to be survivors. But that's exactly what the galaxy needs right now. Survivors. My people have faced countless challenges throughout our history. We've never given up. We've never surrendered. To fear. A murmur went through the council. Alan continued. Let us help. If we can resist the swarm's fear effect, we can fight it directly. And if we succeed, you'll have new allies who see the universe differently than you do. Sometimes a new perspective is exactly what you need to solve an old problem. The council argued among themselves while Alan and his crew waited. Finally, Elder Zimral spoke. Commander Wright, your offer is accepted. You will return to Earth as our ambassador. Tell your leaders what you have seen here. The Federation needs humanity's help, though I never thought I would say such words. As Alan left the chamber, Vrinta approached him. Commander, I truly believe your species might be our last hope, the Deathworlders who could save us all. Alan nodded. We'll need to move quickly. We have a galaxy to save. The United Nations building in New York City buzzed with tension. World leaders from every nation sat in stunned silence as Commander Alan Wright finished his presentation. The images of the Galactic Federation and the Void Swarm floated above. The central table. UN Secretary-General Patricia Sullivan stood up slowly. Her gray hair was pulled back tightly and her face showed no emotion, though her eyes revealed her shock. Commander Wright, you're telling us that not only have we discovered alien life, but that the entire galaxy is under threat from this Void Swarm entity? And these aliens want our help because we're considered Deathworlders? Alan nodded. Yes, Madam Secretary. The Federation evolved on peaceful worlds. Their bodies and minds aren't built to handle the kind of stress that humans face every day. The swarm's psychic fear effect paralyzes them. Our brains seem to process it differently. Ambassador Zarlath stepped forward. The aliens' presence had caused gasps when they first entered the room. Now the world leaders watched them with a mixture of wonder and suspicion. Your species is unique, Zarlath said. You evolved on a planet that should have killed you, instead it made you stronger. The Federation needs that strength now. Without it, all life in the galaxy will end within 2 years, the Russian president leaned forward. And what do we get in return for this help? Zarlath blinked their large eyes. You get to live. The swarm will reach your solar system eventually. They're also offering technology, Alan added quickly. Faster than light travel, advanced medicine, clean energy. Hours of debate followed. Some leaders wanted nothing to do with alien problems. Others saw opportunity in the stars. In the end, Patricia Sullivan's voice cut through the arguments. Enough. Throughout human history, we've fought each other over land, resources, and ideologies. For the first time, we face a threat that doesn't care about our borders or beliefs. It will consume us all equally. She looked around the room. This is humanity's moment to prove we can be more than just clever apes with nuclear weapons. 3 days later, Operation Bulwark was formed. Military forces from around the world united under a single banner. Admiral Catherine Rogers, a decorated naval officer with 30 years of experience, was chosen to lead them. "I never thought I'd command a space fleet," Catherine told Alan as they watched Federation engineers upgrade Earth ships with alien technology, especially not alongside actual aliens. Alan smiled. "We're all adapting to strange new circumstances." Dr. Nathan Reeves, a brilliant xenobiologist, worked day and night with Science Minister Vrinta to understand why humans responded differently to the swarm. "It's fascinating," Nathan said, examining brain scans. "When other species encounter the swarm's psychic field, their thought processes shut down. But human brains light up in different areas. We don't freeze, we fight back." Vrinta moved closer to the human brain model. "Your species evolved with a constant fight-or-flight response. You're hardwired to react to threats, not freeze before them." Training began immediately. Federation instructors tried to teach humans their combat tactics, but quickly found themselves learning more than teaching. Thrixian Commander Zilvax watched in disbelief as Lieutenant Olivia Martinez finished a combat simulation despite multiple simulated injuries. "You should have stopped when the pain began," Zilvax said. Olivia wiped sweat from her forehead. "Pain is just information. You can acknowledge it without being controlled by it." Zilvax's tendrils twitched nervously. "Your species continues functioning despite damage that would incapacitate any Federation soldier. It's disturbing." "It's survival," Olivia replied. "Earth taught us that lesson early." The differences became clearer during group exercises. Federation species followed precise plans and protocols. Humans constantly improvised, adapting to changing situations in ways the aliens found baffling. The plan said to retreat if the enemy breached the perimeter. Zilvax complained after one simulation. Captain Ryan Bailey shrugged. "The situation changed, so we changed our approach. That's how you win battles." "It's how you get killed," Zilvax countered. "Sometimes you have to risk dying to avoid certain death," Ryan said. "That's another lesson from Earth." Ambassador Zarloth struggled to understand human culture. They spent hours watching Earth videos, reading books, and observing humans interact. "Your species is full of contradictions," Zarloth told Alan one evening. "You compete fiercely, yet help each other without hesitation. You build weapons of mass destruction, yet risk your lives to save single children. You fight constant wars, yet create beautiful art and music." "That's humanity," Alan said. "We contain multitudes." Their conversation was interrupted by alarms. A training accident had trapped several Altharian engineers in a collapsing maintenance shaft. Without hesitation, a team of human engineers rushed toward the danger while Federation species held back, calculating risks. Zarloth watched in amazement as the humans dug through debris, ignoring their own injuries to reach the trapped aliens. Within 20 minutes, all Altharians were rescued. Later, Zarloth found one of the human rescuers, Engineer Sam Winters, in the medical bay. Sam's arms were bandaged from burns and cuts. "Why did you do that?" Zarloth asked. "You didn't know. Those Altharians, they weren't your people." Sam looked confused by the question. "They needed help. What else would we do?" For the first time, Zarloth began to see value in these strange Deathworlders. The Federation Council remained skeptical. Elder Zimral questioned Catherine Rogers during a strategy meeting. "Your plans involve too much risk, Admiral. You suggest sending ships directly at the swarm instead of maintaining safe distance." Catherine stood firm. "With respect, Elder, safe distances haven't worked so far. The swarm has consumed 17 worlds while you watched from a safe distance. Our people cannot function in close proximity to the swarm," another council member objected. Then we'll go in first, Catherine said. Human ships will lead the attack. Your ships can support from range. Vrinta supported the human plan. Our caution has cost us dearly. Perhaps it's time to try the human way, courage over calculation. As the combined fleet prepared for their first engagement, a message arrived from Proxima Centauri, Earth's nearest stellar neighbor. The void swarm had been detected at its edges. They're coming for Earth, Alan told Catherine. Sooner than we expected. Catherine nodded grimly. Then we'll make our stand there. Let's show the galaxy what Deathworlders can do. As the fleet jumped toward Proxima Centauri, Federation observers noticed something strange. The humans weren't paralyzed with fear. Many seemed excited, even eager for the coming battle. Are they not afraid of death? Zarlath asked Olivia. She checked her weapons with steady hands. We're afraid, we just don't let it stop us. The darkness of space around Proxima Centauri lit up with energy blasts and explosions. The void swarm moved like a black cloud, spreading tendrils toward the gathered fleet. Federation ships hung back at what they considered a safe distance, but the human vessels surged forward. Captain William Grant sat in the command chair of the retrofitted Earth vessel, Relentless. The ship had been a nuclear submarine 3 weeks ago. Now it sailed between stars. All crews report ready, said his communications officer, Lisa Perry. Unlike the Federation pilots, her voice showed no fear. Begin attack pattern Echo, William ordered. Remember your training, stay unpredictable. The Relentless swerved sharply, followed by 11 other human ships. They didn't move in the neat formations Federation vessels preferred. Instead, they darted and rolled in patterns that seemed random. The swarm reached for them but couldn't predict their movements. In the tactical center behind the front lines, Lieutenant Commander Sophia Chen watched the battle unfold on a holographic display. The Federation officers stared in disbelief as human ships deliberately flew closer to the swarm. They should be fleeing, said a Thrixian commander. The fear effect alone should disable their crews. Humans process fear differently, Sophia explained, not taking her eyes off the display. We use it as fuel. Sophia had spent days studying recordings of swarm movements. She noticed patterns where others saw chaos. Now she watched her theory being tested. Captain Grant, execute Dragon's Tail now, she ordered through the comm. On the Relentless, William nodded. You heard the Lieutenant Commander. Dragon's Tail formation now. 3 human ships broke away from the main group. They flew in a tight spiral pattern directly at a larger swarm mass. The swarm reached out, trying to envelop them. At the last second, the ships scattered in different directions. Confused, the swarm overextended itself. Fire, William commanded. All human ships fired at once at the overextended portion of the swarm. The black mass shuddered and parts of it dissolved into space. In the Federation command ship, Elder Zimral watched with wide eyes. They heard it. They actually hurt the swarm. Admiral Catherine Rogers nodded. That's just the beginning. The battle continued for 6 hours. Human ships took damage, but they never retreated. When one system failed, they switched to backups. When those failed, they improvised. The Federation had never seen such determination. When it ended, the swarm had withdrawn. For the first time since it appeared, it had been driven back. The cost was high. 3 human ships destroyed, many, others damaged, but they had won. The surviving crews didn't react as the Federation expected. Instead of solemn mourning for their lost comrades, the humans celebrated. They shared stories of narrow escapes and brave actions. They laughed in the face of death. Don't understand, Ambassador Zarlath told Admiral Rogers. You lost ships. People died. Yet your crews celebrate? Catherine's face showed both joy and sadness. We celebrate because we're still alive when we might not have been. We celebrate because we prove the swarm can be beaten, and yes, we celebrate to honor those who died fighting. Your species is strange, Zarlath said. No stranger than yours is to us, Catherine replied. News of the victory spread through Federation space at light speed. Species that had resigned themselves to extinction found new hope. Video recordings of human ships fighting the swarm became the most watched content in Federation history. Alien children began imitating human battle cries and movements. In a quiet laboratory away from the celebrations, Dr. Nathan Reeves and Science Minister Vrinta made an important discovery. "Look at these readings," Nathan said, pointing to a screen showing chemical analyses. "When humans face danger, our bodies produce adrenaline. It's a survival mechanism from our evolutionary past." Vrinta studied the molecular structure. Federation species lost such primitive responses millions of years ago. We considered them unnecessary in a civilized society. "That might be why the swarm affects you so strongly," Nathan suggested. "Your bodies have no chemical defense against fear. But look what happens when we expose swarm particles to concentrated adrenaline." On another screen, black swarm particles shriveled and broke apart when touched by the human hormone. "The swarm's telepathic network. It's disrupted by adrenaline," Vrinta whispered. "We never considered using biochemistry as a weapon." Nathan smiled. "Sometimes old, primitive responses are exactly what you need." The Federation Council called an emergency meeting. For the first time in its history, human representatives were invited to attend. Admiral Rogers and Captain Grant stood before the ancient assembly. Elder Zimral addressed them formally. "Humans of Earth, the Federation acknowledges your contribution in the battle at Proxima Centauri. The swarm was driven back for the first time since it appeared." "Thank you, Elder," Catherine replied. "But one victory isn't enough. The swarm will return, probably stronger than before. We need to take the fight to them." "That would be too dangerous," another council member objected. "We should fortify our current positions and wait for the swarm to come to us." William stepped forward. "With respect, that strategy hasn't worked for you so far. You've lost 17 worlds playing defense." "What do you suggest, Captain?" Vrinta asked, already knowing the answer. "We attack," William said simply. "We find the swarm's center and hit it with everything we have. Dr. Reeves is developing weapons based on human adrenaline that disrupt the swarm's network." The council chamber filled with voices, some supportive, others outraged. Humans advocating for offensive action troubled many counselors who valued caution and consensus. Eventually, Elder Zimral called for order. "The human plan is aggressive, yes, but our traditional approaches have failed. We will allow a joint Human Federation strike force to pursue the swarm." As the meeting ended, Federation media crowded around the human officers. One reporter asked, "Catherine, aren't you afraid of the swarm? Don't you fear death?" Catherine looked directly at the camera. "Of course we're afraid. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's being afraid and doing what needs to be done anyway." The recorder captured her words, which soon spread across thousands of worlds. Federation soldiers began repeating the phrase before missions. Some even tried to mimic human expressions and body language, looking for the source of their strange courage. As the next battle approached, William noticed Zarloth watching human crew members prepare their ships with songs and jokes. "Does it help?" Zarloth asked. "This laughing in the face of death?" William nodded. "It reminds us we're alive, and that's what we're fighting for, life in all its forms." For the first time, Zarloth attempted a human smile. As the war progressed, humanity's influence began changing how the Federation fought. Admiral Catherine Rogers stood before a holographic map showing swarm-controlled territory and Federation space. Federation commanders watched nervously as she outlined her next plan. "Operation Hornet's Nest," Catherine said, pointing to several star systems near the front line. "We'll deliberately abandon these systems to lure the swarm deeper into our territory." The Federation officers looked horrified. "Abandon our own worlds?" asked a Thrixian commander. "Some are still populated." "We'll evacuate the civilians first," Catherine explained patiently. "Then we position our forces here, here, and here." She marked positions that would surround the advancing swarm. "When they move in, believing we're retreating, we close the trap." Elder Zimral shook his head. "This goes against all Federation military doctrine. We never sacrifice territory." "And that's why you've been losing," Catherine said bluntly. "Sometimes you must give ground to gain advantage. Earth military history is full of such strategies." After much debate, the council approved the plan. Operation Hornet's Nest began with a carefully staged retreat. The swarm, growing bolder, surged into what it thought was weakly defended territory. 3 days later, the combined Human Federation fleet closed the trap. They destroyed 30% of the swarm's mass in a single engagement. Meanwhile, Sergeant Jack Miller led a different kind of fight. His squad of 20 human soldiers landed on a swarm-controlled planet to gather intelligence on how the entity behaved on solid ground. Federation advisors had warned it was a suicide mission. The surface was nearly unrecognizable. Black swarm material covered everything like a thick oil. The air was thin and cold. Federation species couldn't survive such conditions without heavy, environmental suits which limited their mobility. Jack's squad wore lighter gear. They could tolerate the cold and thin atmosphere better than any Federation species. For 3 days they moved across the hostile landscape, collecting samples and observing swarm behavior. How can they function in these conditions? Asked the Federation observer who monitored their progress from orbit. No sleep, minimal food, temperatures below freezing. Ambassador Zarloth, who had insisted on joining the observation team, watched the humans with growing respect. They evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. This is just another challenge to overcome. On the 3rd day, the swarm detected the human team. Jack led his squad through a series of evasive maneuvers, using the planet's rough terrain to their advantage. The Federation observer expected them to call for immediate extraction. Instead, Jack reported calmly, "We've completed 80% of our objectives," requesting 20 more hours to finish the mission. The observer was stunned. They should be terrified, begging to leave. Instead, they want to stay longer. Zarloth nodded. "Now you understand why we need them." Back at Federation headquarters, the cultural impact of humanity's approach was becoming evident. Young Ultharians began practicing human martial arts. Thrixian engineers incorporated redundant systems into their designs after seeing how human backup systems provided advantages in combat. The concept of calculated risk, previously unthinkable in Federation culture, became standard doctrine. Not everyone welcomed these changes. Conservative Federation members worried about humanity's growing influence. They saw humans as dangerous savages who might save the galaxy from the swarm only to dominate it themselves. In a closed council session, an Ultharian elder named Drenvor voiced these concerns. "These humans solve everything with aggression. Once the swarm is defeated, what will stop them from turning their weapons on us?" Zarloth, now one of humanity's strongest supporters, stood to address the council. "I've spent more time with humans than anyone here. Yes, they can be aggressive and unpredictable, but they show the same loyalty to allies as they do to their own kind. They risk their lives for strangers. They fight fiercely, but they also build, create, and heal with the same passion." The debate raged until alarms blared throughout the facility. The swarm had launched a surprise attack on Ultharia, Zarloth's homeworld. The council watched in horror as initial reports showed devastating losses. "Our defense fleet is overwhelmed," reported a communications officer. "Civilian evacuations have only reached 40% completion. Federation protocol was clear. When a world was being overrun, remaining ships should retreat to protect other systems. But Captain William Grant, who was patrolling a nearby sector with a human Federation joint force, made a different decision. "All ships set course for Ultharia," he ordered. "Maximum speed." His Federation's second-in-command objected. "Captain, that contradicts standing orders. The planet is likely already lost." William's face hardened. "There are still civilians there. We don't abandon people who need help." The joint force arrived to find Ultharia surrounded by swarm vessels. Without hesitation, William ordered a direct assault to open an evacuation corridor. For 6 hours, human and loyal Federation ships fought desperately against overwhelming odds. The council watched the battle unfold, certain they were witnessing the destruction of a valuable battle group. To their amazement, the corridor opened. Hundreds of civilian ships escaped through the gap held open by William's forces. When the last civilian ship cleared the planet, William finally ordered a retreat. His own vessel took massive damage, covering the withdrawal of other ships. The Relentless limped away with systems failing and hull breaches on multiple decks. When they finally reached safety, William was called before the council. He expected punishment for disobeying protocol. Instead, he found the chamber filled with Ultharian refugees. Elder Zimral spoke formally. Captain Grant, you disobeyed direct orders and risked valuable military assets. William stood tall. I did, Elder. You also saved over 2 million Ultharian lives, including most of their genetic repository and cultural archives. Zimral's voice softened. The Council has voted to award you the Star of Valor, our highest honor. Never before has it been given to a non-Federation species. The chamber erupted in applause. William noticed Ambassador Zarlath standing with a group of rescued Ultharians. They bowed deeply to him, a gesture William had never seen from the usually reserved species. Later, Zarlath found William in the medical bay, where he was visiting injured crew members. My people had a word for humans when we first met you, Zarlath said. It translates roughly as dangerous primitives. We now have a new word. It means fierce protectors. William smiled through his exhaustion. That's who we are. Not perfect, not always wise, but we stand by those who stand with us. As reports of the rescue spread, attitudes throughout the Federation began to shift. The questions changed from, are humans too dangerous, to, how can we become more like them? The moment had arrived for the final confrontation with the Void Swarm. Intelligence gathered by human and Federation scouts had located the swarm's central node, a massive concentration of the black substance orbiting a dying star at the edge of the galaxy. The combined fleet gathered at the jump point. Human ships formed the vanguard with Federation vessels arranged behind them in support formations. Admiral Catherine Rogers stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Earth vessel, Defiance. This is it, she told the assembled commanders through the communication system. Everything we've learned, everything we've sacrificed has led to this moment. The swarm thinks it's the ultimate predator. Today we prove it wrong. Dr. Nathan Reeves had worked tirelessly with Federation scientists to develop their secret weapon, a modified version of human adrenaline that could disrupt the swarm's psychic network. The formula was loaded into special missiles on every ship. The adrenaline compound will only work if delivered directly to the central node, Nathan explained during the final briefing. We need to get closer than any ship has ever gone to the swarm and survived. Lieutenant Olivia Martinez had developed a bold tactic to use the swarm's own psychic network against itself. The swarm communicates through a shared consciousness, she told the commanders. If we can introduce our compound at the central node, it will spread throughout the entire entity. The plan was set. The fleet would create a diversion while a smaller strike team led by Captain William Grant would deliver the adrenaline payload directly to the central node. As the ships prepared to jump, Ambassador Zarlath visited the Defiance. The ambassador found William checking his equipment one last time. The council asked me to give you this, Zarlath said, presenting William with a small crystal pendant. It contains the collected memories of our oldest worlds, the ones already lost to the swarm. No matter what happens today, our history will survive. William accepted the pendant with solemn respect. We won't fail you. The fleet jumped into the target system. The sight that greeted them was terrifying. The swarm had grown enormous, nearly engulfing the dying star. Its black tendrils reached out like grasping fingers as soon as the ships appeared. All vessels commence attack pattern Omega, Catherine ordered. Draw its attention away from the strike team. The battle erupted across space. Federation ships fired from maximum range while human vessels darted closer, drawing the swarm's focus. Meanwhile, William's strike team, 3 small fast ships, circled around, using the star's radiation to mask their approach. From the Federation command ship, Elder Zimral and the Council watched the humans fight with a mixture of horror and admiration. The human ships took damage that would have sent Federation crews retreating, yet they pressed forward. How do they keep fighting? A council member whispered. Because they must, Zimral replied simply. The diversion was working. William's team, approached the central node, which pulsed like a massive heart at the swarm's center. But the swarm sensed them at the last moment. A massive tendril formed, sweeping toward the strike ships. "Evasive maneuvers!" William shouted. 2 ships veered away in time. William's ship, the Relentless, was clipped by the tendril. Systems failed across the vessel as the black substance began eating through the hull. "Engine damage reported. Lisa," Perry announced, her voice steady despite the danger. "We've lost propulsion, weapon system still online." William made a quick decision. "All hands to escape pods." He opened a channel to Catherine. "Admiral, the Relentless is hit. We can't deliver the payload as planned." Catherine's face showed concern but not defeat. "We'll find another way, Captain." "There is another way," William said. His voice was calm. "We can set the reactor to overload. The explosion will deliver the compound directly into the node." The bridge went silent as everyone understood what he was suggesting. "That's a suicide mission," Catherine said. "I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking," William replied. "We're volunteering." He looked around at his crew. Every one of them nodded. Before Catherine could object further, William ended the transmission. "Begin evacuation," he ordered his crew. "I need 3 volunteers to stay behind and make sure this works." Every crew member stepped forward. Across the battlefield, the Federation vessels watched in confusion as escape pods launched from the damaged human ship. Instead of retreating, the Relentless turned directly toward the swarm's central node. On the command ship, Zarloth understood what was happening. "They're sacrificing themselves," the ambassador told the stunned council, "to save people they barely know." The Relentless plunged deeper into the swarm. Black tendrils tore at its hull, but the ship's remaining weapons blazed, carving a path forward. When it reached the central node, William gave his final order. "For Earth and all living things," he said quietly. "Detonate." The Relentless exploded in a blinding flash. The adrenaline compound, amplified by the ship's reactor, flooded the central node. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The swarm's tendrils spasmed and contracted. Its unified movement became chaotic, confused. "All ships, attack now," Catherine ordered, her voice tight with emotion. The combined fleet fired everything they had at the disorganized swarm. Without its psychic coordination, the entity couldn't defend itself effectively. Hour by hour, the black mass broke apart and dissolved into space. When it was over, the remains of the swarm drifted harmlessly as inert particles. Reports from across the galaxy confirmed the same pattern. Everywhere, the swarm had become dormant. 3 months later, a ceremony was held on Earth. The Federation Council arrived in person to offer humanity full membership in the Galactic Federation. Secretary General Patricia Sullivan accepted on behalf of Earth. "Humanity is honored to join the galactic community," she said in her address. "The harsh world that shaped us, that you once called a death world, forged our greatest strengths. From adversity we learned resilience. From danger we developed creativity. From suffering we gained compassion." Federation historians later divided their records into 2 periods, before humans and after humans. Species across the galaxy began incorporating human traits into their cultures and even their biology. Some Federation species started genetic modification programs to include human characteristics like adrenaline responses and pain tolerance. Meanwhile, humanity adopted Federation technology while maintaining their unique perspective. The exchange benefited both sides. Ambassador Zarloth, appointed as permanent liaison to Earth, stood with Captain Grant's family during the memorial service for those lost in the final battle. Rain fell gently around them. "Does the rain bother you?" asked Grace Grant, William's sister. Zarloth looked up at the falling water with nervous fascination. "On my world, precipitation is rare and dangerous, but here..." The ambassador held out a gray hand, letting raindrops collect on the palm. "Here I'm learning not to fear what seems threatening at first." Grace smiled. "That's a very human perspective. In schools across the Federation, young aliens learned about Earth with wide eyes, unable to imagine evolving on such a dangerous world with so many predators, diseases, and natural disasters. How did humans survive such conditions? Asked a young Ultharian student during a lesson. The teacher, who had fought alongside humans during the war, smiled. That is precisely what made them special. The Deathworlders who taught the stars how to survive.